That's how the name Christina happened. It was like, it literally shot up in the night, and I was like, this is my alter ego. Like, it was like, Christina, frizzy hair, Christina.
No,
Like,
Christina.
I just literally shot up, like, wrote it down, like, okay, I'll do something.
I love that.
Like, you have to take those moments to make up.
Hi, I'm real human, not a robot, guaranteed no nuts Phoebe. And I'm Shock. And welcome to Do You Ever Feel Like, where we ask the questions that everyone's thinking and nobody's answering. And today on the intro, you get me. It's Phoebe. I forgot to ask Jacqueline. I forgot to schedule. We have to record the podcast intro into our calendars. And so it's just me. The time is now. We need to put the podcast out. And by need, I mean I want to. So we're here. Today on the podcast, we have Christina, aka Friztina, aka Frizztuna. If you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, head over to Christina's Instagram. She was on Omni News. Okay, this is like Southern Ontario specific lore here. She was on Omni News last week because she scored some Eras Tour tickets. And that's like, Southern Ontario gold, Canadian gold, really. So if you know, if you have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about, just, think of your local news station and how exciting it would be to be on your local news station. Anyway, we have Christina on the pod today. We talk a little bit how we know each other. I was teaching Pilates during the pandemic. Well, I still teach Pilates. I was teaching Pilates online, and Christina would come onto my other side of the Zoom screen and be like a little tiny square and move while I was kind of just shouting in my room alone. And we became internet friends, as one does during a pandemic, That's how Jacqueline ended up here as well. This is what I love to do. I love to harass women on the other side of a screen. Enjoy this interview with Christina. I think she's just great. We're really excited to have her on the pod. She was a pod dream guest for a while. And then dreams came true. We talk a little bit about, the difference between art and content, creating the things that we want, and just having fucking fun. What a concept in this world. Anyway, thanks very much. I hope you enjoy this episode with Christina and this really weird intro alone. I don't know how podcasts, single podcasts, do it. I feel Cuccolini doing this. Anyway, have fun. Good luck. Christina, everyone.
Today on the podcast, we have artist, content creator, illustrator, travel vlogger, solo dater, a K-pop fan, stan, ? I don't know what I'm talking about when I say those words. Overall gal on the town, a dancer. She's a very nice gal. We love her very much. Please welcome to the stage, Christina Crisostomo.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for
Welcome.
answering our nonsense call. Christina, for the folks at home, for the folks in the audience, this is ridiculous. I got a microphone in front of me and I become an insane person. For the folks at home, tell us a little bit about who you are, what do you do, where you bop around.
Yeah, no, I think of all the descriptors you mentioned, gal about town feels the most correct.
Gal about town.
I would say. So above all things, a gal about town. Probably second to that, I would say I'm a content creator, but I like all the other pieces you pulled in, like the artist, the illustrator, the dancer. It's not just making content.
No.
It's all of the above.
Yeah. It's truly so many things. I mean, when I was starting the research for, I followed you for a couple of years now. I feel like we're friends because that's what the internet does to my brain. Okay. How did am I just in your DMs all the time? Is that how we know? I thought, this is what I think. And I could be so wrong. Were you not coming to good body feel classes during the...
Yeah.
That's
yes,
what I thought.
That's how.
That's what I thought. So I feel like we have kind of talked before then. I've just talked extremely one-sided at you.
Exactly. You talk to me. I don't know if I have talked back to you, but now we're all just in each other's DMs.
Yeah.
All the time,
Okay. Great. Yeah. I could. How I know people. I mean, this is like a running theme on this show. Is my memory is not cute in a potentially concerning way. But anyway, that's none of our problems right now. Certainly not your problem.
Same.
But when I was like refreshing my memory, I was like, what are all the things Christina does? I was like, yeah, you really do truly bop. And I find that, I mean, like there's a lot of stuff I feel like we could chat about, but I find that like I'm fascinated by that as a girl who's just really in her house, as two gals, I will say, really in their houses.
I support that as well.
I don't know. How did that, because I also know you haven't always been a gal about town. I don't know. Maybe.
For sure. So I guess when I say gal about town, maybe to give some context. So my content that I create is primarily around things I do in Toronto. So you could call that lifestyle, I guess, but it's just my life. I don't really know what kind of lifestyle I'm trying to put forward. I do try and focus on a lot of like creative things to do in the city, like art, workshops, just like the ways to spend your time that are not just shopping. You know, or I don't know, spending money, like trying to find fun, creative things to do, as well as solo dates. So spending time with myself, even if it's just going to like a park or a cafe, and doesn't have to be anything fancy, but you know, I find people really like hearing those types of stories. But how did it all start? I guess I've always been a bopper. I will say that.
You have, okay.
This isn't new. The bopping part isn't new. I think even the like capturing it and putting it out into media isn't necessarily new. I had a blog when I was in grade 6 where I would write about everything I did at school that day, like every single day. Like that's, I would say that was the start of my content creation career. Was a very prolific live journal blogger.
Is actually, I was about to say RIP. Is LiveJournal still around?
I don't think I have access to mine.
No, I don't think it is either.
No.
I was just explaining what LiveJournal was to like my 20-year-old cousin at Thanksgiving this past weekend. She was like, what? And I was like, yeah, it was a whole thing. The internet before the internet.
It's like TikTok,
but for writing and my feelings.
Exactly. But yeah, I've always just kind of been pretty independent, like to run around. I've always lived in cities. So even from like a young age, I was like going out with my friends, doing things in whatever city I was living in at the time. I honestly feel like it's not that different now. I think now it's just more of a, especially post-pandemic, like more of a push to just like really get out there.
Real.
Yeah.
It's real post-pandemic. And I also think what I really love about your content is like, as a gal in her 30s, like I feel all of the sudden, it's interesting, right? Like so much of media is for you when you're a teenager, and we all like got to kind of come alive, grow up with this like thing, as it was kind of like, I don't know, like I didn't have Instagram until like I wasn't in high school when Instagram was like a big thing or whatever, right? So it was like for you, and then all of a sudden, like it's not for you all of a sudden. Like, you know, the young people, the fresh faces, they're young. They're young. But I think that's like something I really admire and I enjoy, and something I've been really mindful of. We were just talking a couple of episodes ago about like, I don't know, keeping the brain space nice and being online at the same time. And I think it's kind of important to like, I don't know.
Yeah, curate who you follow, curate the types of content.
Yeah, and like consume. Making it, I mean, like you're saying, like, oh, what kind of lifestyle is that? Well, it's like it's a lifestyle of most gals, you know, like most people. And I think like I don't know, I could go on a whole thing. Like, right, we're supposed to do all of these things by the time we're certain, like, you know, Esther Perel was just talking about this today because of, oh my God, what's that show on Netflix right now?
Love is Blind.
No.
No, nobody wants this.
I had to put
nobody
wants this. She was talking about that. She's like, you know, like love happens in your 20s. It's like a thing that happens in your 20s. And I think so much of life is supposed to happen in your 20s. But then you just like keep living. Like you don't disappear when you turn 30. You also don't disappear when you turn 40 or 50, especially as a woman. So that's something I really admire as well.
I think like, I would agree. Like a lot of the content that's out there is probably for people who are younger than I am. And then a lot of the content that's aimed at folks in like the 30s demographic is so much like marriage humor,
Yeah. Oh
relationship
my God.
humor,
Yeah, marriage
like,
humor.
or people who are in established couples,
Yeah.
and like that hasn't been me for a really long
Yeah.
time. So I do like to try and bring a little bit of a different representation
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. And if it
Totally.
is marriage humor, it's like really nightmarish, heterosexual.
Yeah.
Can we get blink twice if you need help?
Yeah. Blink twice. Yeah, for sure. I also think like we're marketed to at this age, right? Like we're supposed to be buying everything. So it's like
Mhm.
what you were saying about like it doesn't have to be about consuming. It can be a free solo date. It can be a walk in the park. I actually think there's something quite important about reminding women, you know, in in your 30s or whatever, right? Like that like you don't have to just be behind your phone buying something else for your house, something else for your face, something
Mhm.
else for your
For your
whatever,
face.
right?
Yeah.
Totally.
Because that's what I think is cool about the content, like the bopping around content of like, because it's like I so don't relate. Like I so do not relate. Like Phoebe is always like, "Have you left your house today?" you know. Um, but I think what's cool about it is like, I don't know, like I think people don't feel special in their everyday lives, right? Of like walking to the park or doing the thing. And I think there's something about that content that your audience really seems to resonate with, the
Mhm.
solo stuff, because it's, I don't know, it makes things special, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that really surprised me when I started doing TikTok. And so I started, I guess, maybe over 2 years ago now. And I was very surprised by how many people would just be interested in a day in the life or a week in the life. And this was before like any brand deal, any partnership, like any fancy thing that is in my life now. Like before I was just recording, oh, I just went to this restaurant or this cafe or I worked. Like
Yeah.
I just like some of it was really banal to me, but to see people coming back and being like actually interested in that, that actually took me by surprise. And then I felt more empowered to just be like, okay, well, if this is what you want to see, I'll do it.
Oh, I
Like I'll
love
share
that.
with you.
Yeah.
Like not everything, but I'll share.
Yeah, right. That line is a whole. I mean,
Mm.
I even feel that way sometimes. Just being any person online that, like, when whether or
Mhm.
not you're actually making money or something like that attached to it, like when you're putting something out that's like packaged in a way, it is a thought.
Mm.
Whatever that little thread is. We kind of talked about it already, but I'm curious what's like the Fristina origin story? Like, is it live journal? Is it like, Fristina as we know her today? Because I know you haven't been doing this forever. Also, I
Mhm.
think, I mean, I don't know, did you start in your 30s? Did you start in your like whatever, late 20s? Like starting
Yeah,
later as well, whatever that thing is? Take
Yeah.
me there. Take me to that space.
definitely. Okay, I love that you asked that. I feel like it actually goes back to your introduction because the first thing you said was artist, and I haven't really identified with that in quite a while, but that is how it started. So that is basically Fristina was my secret Instagram account when I first wanted to put my art and illustration on the internet. So that is actually how it started, as a burner Instagram account.
Okay. I just need to like pause there for a second. Starting as a secret burner account to like brand deal with Go is like, I love that. I love that. I
I
love
love
that.
that
That's
too.
gorgeous.
That's so good.
It's
Also,
wild. It's
like
wild to
the
me
idea of
too.
a burner account in general, like what a great practice for an artist. Like, is it me? Is
Mhm.
it not me? Who knows? You
Yeah.
know? Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that.
So, I mean, this must have started in maybe like 2017, I would guess is when I started it. I think I was just like, I should start putting my drawings on the internet. Like, I have always wanted to share my art with people. I've always wanted to like commit to a practice. Let me just do it. And I told no one. And people only found out because you know how your phone number is connected with Instagram. That was the thing that ratted me out. That people started to get recommended, like Christina. But yeah, if I scroll really, really far back into my archives, it's like I would do this thing called the 100-day challenge. I don't know if you
Yep.
guys know it or remember
Mhm.
it, but it started by an artist like quite some time ago. And every day you're supposed to put out a drawing or a piece of art for 100 days. So that was kind of my vehicle for Festina. I was like, well, let me just put it out there. Like, I don't know if anything's going to happen with it, but like, let me just try. And then eventually it's evolved a lot over time. So I think with any sort of art, you do it, you feel all sorts of feelings about it, you withdraw. You like do it, feel all sorts of feelings, withdraw. At least like that's how it was for me. It's like just maybe it's a universal experience, but so I would go through lots of periods of that. It only became Christina the content creator later on when I like coming out of the pandemic was like, I'm going to recommit to my art again. I want to become one of those like girlies at the markets, like with the stickers and like the illustrations. Like I'm going to invest in this. So I said, I'm going to do that. I started using that account as a way to like promote the art. And at the same time, TikTok was like a thing. So I was like, okay, let me try using TikTok to promote my art. Turns out I hated that. Turns out I hated filming myself draw. I hated like I hated the process around like selling the art.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But what I enjoyed was I would start being like, here's a creative little shop that I found, or here's like a cool little thing. And seeing that started to get traction and I was enjoying making that more than promoting the art, I just leaned into that. And like, that's how it became what it is today.
Yeah.
That's so interesting, like knowing that about yourself as an artist. Cause I think that there's like, that's two different things, right? It's like making art, whatever that journey looks like. I'm not saying it can't not be complicated because I think making anything can be like very complicated. And then like talking about making your art are like
promoting the art.
Promoting the art. It's like a whole other thing to create. It's a whole other thing to make. We talk about that a lot here. That being said, I'm a little bit curious about what your process kind of looks like now, or like I don't know. Would you call it like, I think it's a creative process. I don't know what you would call it, but like when you're out on the town, when you're out bopping, like what are you looking for? And like the balancing of like living in the moment, vlogging the thing, etc.
I love that though. It's like this is stuff that I've always wanted to talk about. But
great!
Really,
great! Yeah,
I love it.
No, like quite literally, we're like, how does Christina do this? Like we like down. So and however technical or detailed you want to get with your response, we're here for it.
I will say, first of all, yes, it is a creative process. That's kind of the only way I've found this tolerable is to like the world of influencing and content creation. Like the only way that I keep coming back to it and don't like feel sick sometimes is just like this. To me, this is my creative output, and this is the thing that is making me feel whole and excited, and I'm sharing myself with the world. Like that is what I come back to. So I would definitely call it a creative process. I don't think it's like that for everybody, because I have friends who are content creators and they're just like, this is how I'm securing the bag.
Yeah, this is my job.
This is my job. Or like, I'm sure there's like or I just like doing this. Like, it's not this bigger creative thing. Like for me, it is like, this is my creative work that is most foremost right now. But I'd say like how it comes together, I think like when I was starting, it was really just kind of like filming without a plan. Just like, I'm someone who walks around and notices a lot of cute, cool things. So like if I walk and I see a cool cafe, I will like make a point to either come back or stop by and maybe just like film a little bit, not knowing what I'm going to do. If I'm in the park on a walk, I see a cool plant or a cool leaf, like I'll film that. Like I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I just collect all these little bits of life, and so that's how it all just starts to come together. Because a lot of times I won't even know something is going to be a video until I look back and I'm like, oh, that was a really nice day, and like here are all these cool clips that I got, and I can be super like around it. There's other videos that are way more planned, but like generally that is the process of
What does that like process of storytelling like, because I think that's so interesting, right? Of like, okay, collecting the thing and then reflecting back to like find the story. What does that, because also at the same time you'll be like literally in Instagram stories. Also, by the way, if you aren't following Christina yet, like my friends, I highly recommend. But then like a couple weeks later, we get like the, I don't know what, like the Christina special on it, something like that. So I'm kind of curious, like, how you're going back, what stories do you want to be telling?
I also just like love Instagram stories. Like if I was to say what my real art is, it's actually just the Instagram
I mean,
story.
quite literally, you're like those like little like template things are gorge. They're so cute.
Yeah, I genuinely like the main form of social media that I enjoy is Instagram stories.
Yep.
So that it's almost kind of a side thing now, because now that I take so much video, just knowing it might become something eventually, like that ends up on the Instagram stories. But I'd say, yeah, more often than not, I'm just going about my day. I'm just filming things, and it comes as like an aha. Like a lot of my solo dates, I don't plan to be solo for the day. I don't even plan for it to be a date. I'm just like out running my errands, like doing my business, and suddenly I see a cute like croissant, and I'm like, oh wait, like this is now a date.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Everything I try and have it just be really organic, because that's like, yeah, there's so many cool things that you just notice when you're out and about.
Oh, I love that so much. I love the like, what the heck do you call that? Like the romanticizing your life.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, but like making that decision, like even when you are out running errands, like that's so sweet. And I think like putting the lens of like creativity over that is really nice as well.
I'm a believer in romanticizing your life. Like, you have to have a little romantic delulu to like survive. So.
I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing otherwise?
Yeah.
I'm interested to know about like, okay, so like you're sitting on your couch on a Thursday watching something, right? And you pull out your phone and you're like, okay, I'm going to take this leaf and this croissant and this thing and blah, 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 and I'm going to make it into, content. Or are you like at 2:00 on Wednesdays, I sit down to Adobe or like whatever the thing is, right? And like do like batch everything, get it out. Like, is it, like balance, I guess, for the actual things you're like living and filming in your life, but also balance of like the production side. Like that's a lot of labor.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
So how do you fit that in? How do you manage that?
It's hard. It's definitely been a work in progress in terms of how to actually make my life feel balanced in that way. And I would say when I first started, I kind of approached it the same way as the 100-day project. I was like, I'm going to post a video every single day for a year. Like I didn't even commit to 100 days. I was like, this year we're going to post every single day, like as much as we can. And like some of it will be bad and some of it will be good. But like I committed that first year to like trying to actually just output anything every single day. It definitely took a toll on my sleep and my like just general sanity, I would say. Like I'm someone who's more creative at night than I am during the day. Like my brain doesn't really wake up until lunch. I would say.
Blessings to you and those people.
Sorry to my 9 to 5. Yeah, like first few hours of the day, I'm just kind of getting through, and then my brain turns on at like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and then unfortunately, if I get an idea at like 9, 10, 11, 12 to 1 to 2, like I will jump on it because that creative energy is not something you have all the time. So I'm gonna be honest, a lot of my nights are like, it's 10 p.m. and suddenly I feel in the mood to edit a video, and then I'm totally disrupting my sleep. So I don't know if there's really a balance so much as like just trying to go with a creative flow when it's there. And then when it's not there, it's usually like, then I just like let it be, to be honest. I'm like, it's not happening right now. There's just gonna be a week of nothing. It's okay.
That is awesome. That's great. That's awesome. Like we're always like, we talk to artists and creatives all day, every day. And like, that's one thing we really believe in is like, when you're talking to creativity and we literally just said this earlier this week, like Phoebe and I in a work meeting, we were like, this week, like if the creativity comes, like if the wind takes us, cool. And if it doesn't, whatever. So like, I love that, like honoring if these videos don't get out or if I don't post or if I don't, whatever, like not pushing that's great. Cause I think a lot of people, I don't know, have certain assumptions about like, right, like the rate of production or getting stuff out or like whatever that looks like. So to hear someone say, no, I'm honoring this or I'm moving with my creativity is a really, I think, refreshing perspective.
Definitely. I'm just a big believer in rest. Do I actually do it that often? That's a different story, but like I believe that it's a good idea, so I try and give that to
Right.
myself when I can. Or if not, rest, like taking breaks. And even if that break means I'm just going to live my life, I'm not worrying about the content part of things. That's a good break.
Yeah.
But what you were saying reminded me of there's like a book my friend recommended to me, and you probably know it, but it's Big Magic, like I can't remember her name, but Eat, Pray, Love
Elizabeth Gilbert.
lady.
Elizabeth Gilbert. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I did read that book, and one thing that I remember from that is just like trusting that the creativity will always come back. Like that is something I just try and remind myself every day. Like if it's not happening this week, just trust it's going to come back in some form. Even if it's not a video, maybe I'll want to draw something or cook or do something completely different. Like it's going to come back in some way, and just trusting in that process.
Yeah, absolutely. And like rest has so many different forms too, right? Like oh my God, sitting still, lying down, I don't know, like all of these activities, meditating, silence, kill me now. I cannot, that is not part of my arsenal. Conceptually sound like very nice things. In practice, I'm like, no, I'm going to scream. And I think that's part of it, right? It's like knowing ourselves enough to be like, actually me, like sitting in the park eating croissant and now it's a date. Like that's, you can't tell me that's not rest. Come on. Like, and I think it's about like knowing what like either side of that coin looks like. It's like, yeah, sometimes I'm going to go, I mean, I'm the same way. Like my brain switches every night at 10 p.m. I'm like, I'm going to go to bed. And then I like have to shoot up out of bed and be like, no, I have to go and write the next great American novel. You know, like there's no choice. You have no choice. And I think that's like, yeah, I'm like, cool, I'll grab onto the sale then.
That's how the name Christina happened. It was like it literally shot up in the night, and I was like, "This is my alter ego." Like, it was like Christina, frizzy hair, Christina. I just literally shot up, like wrote it down, like, okay, I'll do something.
I love that.
Like, you have to take those moments when they come.
Right. Do you feel like there's a different quality of like Phoebe? You wrote a Substack once that was like, I don't write for Substack or something, which is basically like, you know, talking about not creating for the app, right? Do you feel like there's a different quality or like you're like, okay, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to film today versus like just, you know, getting the content and then turning into something later? Like, do you feel like a performance pressure if you're planning on like, oh, this isn't gonna be a good content day because I'm going to this really cute thing? Or even when you travel, right? Like, do you feel that like pressure or like performance? And like, do you approach it differently? Like, is there a different quality, I would assume, too?
Yeah, I think it's like people approach it differently. I do have friends who are really like systematic about how they plan their content. They're like, I'm going to film this. I'm going to like show myself doing all these things in the day. Like they already think it all through. Again, I feel like I'm more just kind of like go with the flow with my creative process and, you know, try and just have it be really organic. But there was a point in time in that year that I was trying to post every single day where I was like, well, now I have to do things to like fill my content. And there's a line that I felt that I did end up crossing that was like, am I living to like create the vlog at the end of the week? Like, am I living to create the content or is this really like how I want to be spending my life and time? And so I think that sort of like feeling, I started to feel myself getting burnt out in that regard. And this year, like more recently, I feel like I've taken a different approach where I'm just like letting myself be. I'm not trying to film every single moment of my day, just like for content's sake. I used to do a lot of like day in the week in the life sort of videos, and now I don't even do those as much anymore because I just don't want that pressure of like living for content. I find, and I feel like that's been working for me, but the pressure to perform or whatever that's very real for sure.
You talked about this like a little bit already, but you have a day job as well. I don't know how, like, is that important to you right now? And like because I think sometimes, right, when we're creating something, having a day job or like whatever, I'm going to use like air quotes too, day job, having like a regular job, you're like Clark Kent moments. Oh, hi, Ollie. Ollie's joined us.
The only way he'll stay quiet.
if I told him with his old man noises. I think a lot of the time that brings us like a lot of stability and security so that we can be, you know, creative wackadoos or run around and like do all of those things. That's certainly how I felt about it in the past. I'm kind of curious how you're feeling about day job status, or like, is that an important thing to you right now? Blah, blah, blah. Not even like talking about your career necessarily, but I mean like, the relationship between those two things.
Definitely. I think when I was younger, my day job like was me. Like I very much tied my job with my identity. I was like, let's like climb up in the world and like this is how I'm going to do it. And I really made that like almost too much of my identity. But after burning out several times, I think with that mentality, I then started to look for day jobs that were like would just give me a bit more flexibility and like work-life balance, whatever that looks like. That became really important to me. And then once like the content started taking off, it was like, how do I find something that gives me that level of stability? Because I don't think I do well without the stability. Like I need some level of structure. I think I need like, I like having the regular paycheck and all of that. Like I've considered freelance like a ton of times, and I think just knowing myself and like needing some structure, it's good for me to be able to have that. But as long as I can also create time for my like personal projects, like that's like one of the most important parts to me, honestly, about my job is like, will it let me do that? And my last couple of jobs, I've been like very upfront with my my managers, my employers, my colleagues. Like they know Christina exists. They know that I have this like insane like schedule after 5 p.m.
That's so funny.
Like they're well aware. I think a lot of people hide it from their employers and all of that. But yeah, mine have all been really supportive, thankfully.
That's so sweet.
It's been part of the criteria for like having the 9 to 5 for sure.
I love that as like a litmus test. Also, like, I don't know, I think you're such a testament of like to visibility, right? Like if I were in that situation, I'd be like, please do not perceive me. I mean, I've told the story on the podcast recently. Or maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I got cut. But whatever, I'll tell you now. I like drive to another town to get my nails done because I don't want to like talk to anyone because I run into people. I mean, it's the same thing. Like Southern Ontario is just a small town in general. Like I live outside of the city, as you know. So I like drive across town, go get my nails done. And my like the receptionist at the front desk followed me on Instagram. And I was like, well, now I can't go there anymore because I need no one to know who I am when I sound like I'm like fucking Gwyneth Paltrow or Kim K or something like that. But like, I just do not want to be perceived. I don't want to have to like maybe smile at you or something. So blessings to you. I admire that. I need to like
privacy, please.
What am I thinking of right now? What meme am I thinking of? Oh my god, whatever. My brain is mush. I'm curious how like starting to work with brands came about and what that feels like for you. If like, you know your rent's going to be paid for the month. Like, I don't know, being pickier about them, what the criteria, what the litmus test.
First of all, I find it absolutely wild. I think being millennials as we are, we kind of grew up in this era of like the people who get brand deals are like the perfect curated Instagram, you know, like there's a certain aesthetic or lifestyle you already have to like get
and I think too like the I certainly grew up with like the sellout mentality of so much stuff still, right? And so that's like what sticks in my head so much.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's still wild to me that like any brand has noticed me and wants to pay me to make content about them. Like that, it continues to blow my mind just because I never thought, like, I worked in social media, I worked in influencer marketing for like years, and I never thought like I would be that person. I always was like in the background, like I'm facilitating these deals, I'm helping, you know, the brands create the content, but I never thought it would be me. So it feels absolutely wild. I do appreciate TikTok as a medium that just kind of like brings everyday people up like, in a way that like, Instagram doesn't. Whatever, all social media platforms were questionable, but at least I think like, Facebook has brought up real human beings and brought that visibility to brands. So I think it's super cool. I also, tying back to the 9 to 5 conversation, I think that gives me the flexibility to be choosy about who I work with. So I have actually turned down a bunch of deals this year, which is, again, wild to say that I'm like turning down deals, but like, brands that don't align with me, brands that frankly like don't have enough budget to make it worth my time. I can be choosy about that. And I really do think about, what is Christina? What do I want to be aligned with? Who are like the dream partners that I want to work with? I get to be choosy, and I think that's so cool. So yeah, I really love it. Brands, work with me.
Yes. I mean, and your branded stuff is so great too. I mean, I also just think it's really fun. Like, this is like for Southern Ontario listeners only. I don't think anyone else is gonna get it, but I just think like getting a Go transit that's like our, what even is Go? Like our like provincial like train
subway
system. Yeah. No, it's between cities. So like Jacqueline, when we went to Toronto, like we took the Go train.
I've
you've ridden Go. You've ridden Go.
Like a regional transit.
Yeah. But I think like to have a deal like that, I don't know. I just think like that's so different. That's so creative. That's so like, I just think that's like really exciting to be able to see regular degulars,
Yeah. I identify as a regular degular. I'm like, me, I'm here for the regular degular representation.
Yes, exactly.
Editing Phoebe here really quick. We lost one of our audio tracks. We had to restart. Then we started talking about Love is Blind. I have no good segue here for you, but I do have some good Love is Blind combo. Okay, back to our interview.
I've exhausted Love is Blind. Here I go. Exactly. I had to turn off this like most recent season of Love is Blind because I was like, I just feel like, I mean, the Lord knows I will return. I always do this with I'm like, I'm not watching this season. I was like, no, I'm sick in the head. I will participate in the discourse. Plus, you have to participate in the discourse too.
Yeah, you need to watch Love is Blind Habibi also.
Oh,
that's my reco. Like, balance the US with Love is Blind Habibi.
The US one it's like quite dark. I really did like the UK one, and I don't know if you watched it, but I found it like different enough. Like there's something just so dark-sided about American men. I'm like, why do you know nothing about reproductive rights? Anyway,
I'm not allowed to watch Love is Blind.
You're not allowed to watch Love is Blind?
Yeah, you've told me I'm not allowed to watch Love is Blind.
No, Jacqueline can't handle.
Stay safe.
Yeah, exactly. Back up. Your head will explode. You're also not allowed to watch Selling Sunset.
No, I'm not allowed to watch any of these reality TV shows. I texted Phoebe the other day and I was like, wait, Love is Blind is like,
Jacqueline didn't get it. I had to explain it to her.
What it was. I was like, they just can't see each other? Like, what?
Like the entire time. Yeah. Which, whatever. The concept is so offensive to like, I just think all the time, I'm like, they're like, Love is Blind. Like when Nick Lachey comes in, like, can you fall in love with somebody you've never seen them? Like, literal blind people exist. Like, literal blind people fall in love all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's what I was saying. Like, what? I don't understand this concept. What?
No, Nick Lachey,
it's so bad.
He's come up with something unique and different and one of a kind, and no one's ever done it before.
No one's ever done it before. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I was kind of curious. I feel like there's so much like crap, or like I want to say like downvotes. I don't know why that came to mind, but like against throwing spaghetti at the wall. Like people are like, oh, you should really know what you're doing at all the time. But it's like, how could you possibly know if you aren't mucking around?
Yeah, totally.
And I also just don't understand that concept. This is a whole rant for people that work in social media, right? Like Phoebe and I have clients that we do social media for. Like, I think this concept of like, there's no point of making the thing if it's not going to perform a certain way, right? Like, because that's really what what we're saying when we're like, what's going to be the return here, right? What's the performance analytic going to be? What's the whatever, right? Like, is that like the only point of making anything is if it's going to do well? And it's like, that's literally not marketing. Like, that's literally not marketing. Like, so this idea, I don't know, like KPIs of it all annoy me because I'm like, it's like, there is no guarantee with making literally anything, So
Mhm.
I don't know. I find
Yeah.
that like, oh, we're going to only invest in this thing if it's a guaranteed return or whatever, right? Like,
Mhm.
I,
Mhm.
I don't know. How can we, like Phoebe was saying, how can we be creative? How can we find the next thing? How can we
Yeah.
actually grow? How can we actually
Yeah.
change if like there is an experimentation being a part of it? And most of the time I feel like people
Mhm.
don't even really understand what that actually
Yeah.
means. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And how, the like the analytics, like what that
Mhm.
information is actually telling you and like what to do with that the next step.
Mhm.
Um, is
Totally.
that something that
Yeah.
do you care? Do you care? Do you evaluate? Do you look at it? Does it drive your decision? Like, is it something you think about?
Yeah, I think like anybody who is like putting stuff out in the world, of course you care a little bit about like the feedback you get. Of course the numbers, like you are going to care. Like I think anyone who says they don't care isn't telling the truth. So let's be real, sure. Like I do like track it and I care to a certain extent.
Mhm.
And if I see some things that are doing better than others, then maybe I make
Yeah.
more, types of content like that. But at the end of the day, like you said, I'm very pro spaghetti at the wall. It has taken me this far in life. So like
Yeah.
I think like you really don't know sometimes what's going
Yeah.
to resonate. I think resonate versus perform, maybe that's like
Oh.
what keeps me sane, like what will resonate.
Mhm.
So very pro spaghetti at the wall and also very pro just making stuff for yourself. Like I think you were talking about like what is this all for? Who is this all for? Always make it for yourself.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the
Yeah.
day, if it's art or creative or whatever, like yourself first, and then hopefully other people will find resonance in that.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
that's something you can really feel when it's not there, right? You're like, "Oh, this
Mhm.
thing feels hollow." It's like, IKEA
Mhm.
art or something like that.
Mm.
Mm,
Like,
mhm.
I could hang it on my wall, but, I don't know,
Mhm.
there's no soul or something like
Yeah.
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I think that's
totally,
something that I
totally.
really notice exactly with your content is like I can tell
Mhm.
that it's for
Yeah,
you
you're having fun.
and
Mhm.
you're having
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
I can tell sometimes when it's like this is a video that I'm just sort of like pushing out versus
Mhm,
like I'm really like excited about
mhm.
this. And sometimes things I'm excited about, no one else is, and that's fine because I still at the end of the day made it for me. So I can't be too mad about
Yeah,
Right.
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
My last question for you is what is inspiring to you right now? What are you inspired by right now?
Ooh, okay. I love this. I will say, I think there's been a shift on TikTok. Like a
Oh,
lot of my
yeah.
inspiration comes from TikTok because I'm on it all the time. But I think there's been a shift from like here's the polished vlog, like with the voiceover
Mhm,
and editorializing your day. And I think that still exists and there's still appetite for that sort of thing. Like people want like the recommendations and all
Mhm.
that. But I'm following these two like New York City TikTokers who her name is Ayana and the other guy's name is Tommy. And they just film themselves doing like the wildest stuff, just going about their day like everyday people, but it'll be like I'm filming myself getting on the bus and I'm talking to everybody on this bus and I'm making funny comments, like trying to make people laugh on the bus. And like, you don't know what's going to happen. And like, you
Mm.
don't know what kind of trouble that they're going to get into. Like, Ayana will go to a restaurant and then she'll go behind the counter and like talk to the people making the food and be like, you're doing a great job. Like, and then walk into the basement and like, she'll just do things that you're
yeah,
like, what? How would you even think to go like to the stock room?
yeah.
Mm.
Like no one said you could, but like she's there.
Oh,
And
that's
I think
cool.
it's very like just it's fun because you really don't know what's going to happen and there's like this element that they could get in trouble, but like it's all very like humorous and has a lot of heart and soul. Like you can see their personalities come through. So I've been very inspired by that type of storytelling. That's like
Mm.
you really don't know where it's going to go and you're in the moment with them and they feel very real and they don't have any agenda. Like I love
Oh, I
that.
love that. I love that. It almost feels like watching a horror movie or something like that. Like, "Don't go down there."
Yeah.
Like, what
Or
is
like
gonna happen next?
yeah, or like performance art or something,
Yes.
right? Like cuz
Mhm.
performance art is so disruptive. It's like, "Oh, this is not supposed to be happening right now."
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's something
yeah.
interesting about that.
It feels like that. They just also feel very brave. It's like they're just going out and talking to people. Like, I think a lot of people are scared of that. Like, just scared to like get to know the people who work at your Chipotle. Like, they're going in there and they're like going to the back rooms. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Really
that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Well, Christina, thank you so much. Do you have anything that you want to plug? Anything like, I don't know, that you're working on, your socials, etc.? What do the people need to know?
I'm just bopping around. I'm bopping around under the handle at Christina on TikTok, on Instagram. And yeah, if you're interested in anything that I said today, come check it out.
If you're ever looking for a Toronto recommendation, whenever I have to go in the city for something, I always go and scroll. I'm like, where's a cafe I need to go to? What do I need to know about? Where am I eating? What's going on this weekend? It's always
and
nice.
Also, if you're looking, I did a deep dive. If you want travel content that's not because the thing about travel content, right, is like we then go to the place and it's like, this doesn't look like this. You know what I'm saying? And I love your travel content because I'm like, oh, there's not a filter on here. This was cut like really real. Like, I actually will know what that beach looks like now. You know what I mean? It's not like this like cute version of the beach or whatever, right? I find that so refreshing. So great travel recs that like might actually be what you'll actually see if you go to that restaurant.
And aren't like consumer nightmare factory.
Yes, exactly.
I try and avoid it at all costs.
You're doing a great job. I see that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, Christina.
Yes, I love this. This was so fun. Yay, first podcast.
Yay. Yes. This was Christina's first podcast, dude. That's insane. You did a great job.
Yeah.
I loved it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Do You Ever Feel Like, a podcast from Do You Ever Media.
Follow this chaos wherever you get your pods.
Our artwork is by Simon Pang.
You can write us at doyoueverpod@gmail.com.
Learn more about our work at doyouevermedia.com.
Or by following us at Do You Ever Media.
Okay, bye!
Okay, bye!